timeline of complex life. The fish, that's where we all started, in the water. And there are some first plants. Era of the fish. Boom, the age of mammals. Well, hello there, fishy friends. I was just finishing my maintenance. It's Sunday. I usually spend the weekend doing some tanks on Saturday and some tanks on Sunday. This is the new cube for my neighbor. It's going to host these red neocaradinas. So very simple move. This shrimp will go into this tank. I just did the maintenance on the Asian tank. I just removed the small filter from my beta tank, and now it's just totally filterless. All the tanks are doing okay. There are no issues, no problems, and no algae, especially in the black water tanks, obviously, because the light is low and the fast-growing floaters are doing their job. The rasboras are doing fine, I hope. It's very hard to count them. I keep feeling that I have less and less of them every day, but I hope it's not the case. I just changed some water in my riparium. I haven't done anything here aside from planting some new cryptocorin. They look a little unimpressive right now, but they are going to perk up once they find their nutrients. I haven't done much in this tank. This tank is supposed to be a sort of ecosystem, no maintenance tank. The only issue I have in this one is some hair algae. I remove it manually every other week or so. It's not horrible, but I think the high content of iron in the substrate contributes to string algae. So I don't worry about algae. I never had major issues with algae blooms, and the way I understand how algae works is the balance between nutrients and lighting. When there's a lot of nutrients, algae in your aquarium will start growing, and they might outgrow some of the plants in your tank, because algae is very efficient in absorbing nutrients, and it might take all the nitrates that were meant for your plants and suffocate your plants, or basically the algae get to the food first and your plants might not get enough nutrients and then they melt. Let me illustrate. This is the total amount of nutrients in your tank. Let's say daily amount of poop that comes into the water. Now, if you have robust plants, all of it will be consumed by your plants. But algae have a very efficient way of consuming the nutrients. So for example, the way the plants do it, let's say half of your nutrient content will go to the plants, the other half will go to the algae. Plants are more sophisticated when it comes to food, and they eat the nutrients a little bit slower. They take smaller bites. And then if you have algae problem, maybe a lot of light, too much nutrients, not enough plants, then what happens is the algae will come in with their very efficient way of nutrient absorption. They will just eat it all, yeah, just like that. And there will be nothing left for the plants. And that basically explains it. So what to do about that? One way to do it is to decrease lighting and decrease the nutrient. So feed your fish a little less, they will be fine. The way I understand this balance is that when algae grows, it's a way for your system to balance itself, because algae is filling in the blank, or it's taking up all the extra nutrients. And if you remove algae, the nutrients will just float in the water, and hopefully the plants that you have in your aquarium will take care of these nutrients instead of the algae. So manual removal is a good option until the water chemistry strikes good balance. But you have to know that if you remove a lot of algae from your water, it might result in a sudden spike of nitrates or even ammonia. At least that's how I understand it. And if you have less light, like in case of black water aquariums like this one, you won't even have to worry about algae at all. If you have enough light for your plants, the plants will get all the light and all the nutrients, but it's too dark for the algae to grow. So in short, algae is a way for your system to balance itself against excess nutrients in the water. The way I treat algae, like for example, in case of this tank, this is a Zebra Daniel tank, reverse style, with high flow, some plants and clear water. So there's more light in the tank. And also some algae is growing. There's some tufts of hair algae growing here and there. I'm just watching the algae. If it starts growing on plants, then I start to worry. If it grows on hardscape, then it adds the element of wildness to the tank. So this is basically if you are snorkeling somewhere in the lake or in the river, you will see that the plants and algae are battling each other. So there's a lot of algae, and the plants are looking a little bit ragged. They have some battle scars, growth issues, and because our tanks are meant to look nice, we remove the algae as if they were weeds, but that could actually disrupt the balance of nutrients. My rule of thumb is if I remove a lot of algae, I also make sure to add some kind of fast-growing plant, or maybe floating plants. So more plants will also cause algae to back off. So it's a constant competition. So I don't really limit the light duration as much as the light intensity. I run my lights for 10 hours on average, but I turn down the intensity a little bit more. I'd rather enjoy my tanks for a little bit longer than have the fish stressed out with too much brightness, because fish don't actually appreciate a lot of light. The most relaxed fish are in this black water tank. It's pretty dark in there, and they like it like that. They feel safe. With more brightness, the fish might feel a little bit threatened, and they feel visible, and they feel like they don't have anywhere to hide. So dimming your light a little bit has benefits in terms of calming down your fish, but also you can enjoy your tanks for longer, and the algae is not growing. You have better control of algae growth. So if you spot some algae on a hardscape, I don't think there's cause for concern. If you start seeing the algae affecting the growth of the plants, then you can start acting. And acting involves making sure that you don't overfeed your aquarium, that your light is low enough so that the plants can grow but algae doesn't thrive. And if you have a lot of algae, it means that you don't have enough plants. So you can actually do an experiment and create a tank with no plants or very small amount of plants, and see how quickly that lack of plant matter will compensate itself by growing algae. And algae actually grows on its own. It's everywhere. It's in the air. If you go to England or some kind of wet environment, you will see algae on stones, on walls, on trees, Everywhere there's water, there's algae. So you can actually cycle your tank without any plants if you allow algae to grow. It will be unsightly, but that's how you can actually create a tank that's healthy without even bothering to buy plants. And some people managed to scape their aquariums with just hardscape, and by letting the algae grow. There are some aquariums with blackbeard algae that actually looks kind of cool, and string algae or hair algae, or even the green dust algae that grows on rocks can be a great decorative element for some of the cichlid tanks. And it does take care of the nitrates, provides food for the fish, and it also looks cool. So yeah, I don't worry about algae. And the only issue I have with algae is in this tank, and it's only because I added extra clay to the substrate, which contains more iron than I need. But over time, the algae will have their feast. They will eat all the iron they can. And with water changes, the iron is going to get rinsed out more. And over time, the tank will balance itself, and then I won't have to do anything. So if you don't want algae, I recommend black water aquarium. You don't have to worry about algae at all. If you want to avoid algae on your glass, if you don't like scraping your tank, I recommend tilting your light away from the front glass so that there's just enough light within the aquarium, because there's a radius at which the light is shining. And you will have enough light to shine on the plants, and it also is more natural angle, because let's face it, the sun rarely shines straight from the top, like in this tank. It's always at an angle, unless you live near the equator and it's noon. But if you tilt the glass away from the front panel, then the light will not cause algae to bloom on your front glass, and then you will save some time on scraping. I might actually do the same with this aquarium. So that's all I have to say about the algae, the menace of algae that everybody is so worried about. Don't worry about algae, just make sure that if you don't want algae, add more plants. And make the light soft, make the light gentle for your fish, and just enough for the plants to grow, but not too intense. All right, I'm going to move on with my day. I hope you have a great week. See you later.